Community Viewpoint.
And welcome once again to Community Viewpoint. I'm John Pawlak, your host for this segment. And I think you can see I have my special National Park shirt on today. A little smoky as saying resist. And there's a long story. But anyway, we're going to be talking about the national parks today because, oh my God, for the last 2 weeks, the federal government has, in their infinite wisdom, decided not to send money to keep them open. But did that keep them closed? No, not necessarily. Even though the funding has stopped from the federal government because of the budget crisis for the last 2 weeks, certain groups, whether it be the state, like the state of Arizona is keeping their parks, Grand Canyon open, and let's talk to what has happened to Death Valley and as per se. That is also closed because of the budget crunch, but basically it's still open, and that's thanks to people like the executive director from the Death Valley Natural History Association, David Blacker. And David is here with us today. You've been here before to tell us what you've done in the past, like with Scotty's Castle, and give us an update on floods that have happened down there, spring flowers. But this is a rather serious issue. And we haven't heard much about the park in a negative way. That's because basically it stayed open because of the donation from your group.
Well, first, the park stays open a great deal because there's a state highway that runs through the middle of it.
It's hard to keep people
so
from...
you can't put a gate on a state highway.
Right.
But once we realized how long this thing was looking to last, we began working with the Park Service to figure out a way that we would be able to help keep the visitor center open.
It's very commendable to you, and we thank you for that because I've been reading, you heard me earlier, but some of the horror stories about Joshua Tree. Some of the folks that come over there, they don't really look out for the natural resources over there. Yellowstone has had some issues, and there are other parks. But people have stepped in, local people, Chamber of Commerce from 29 Palms, local the residents, and also the people that have the businesses around the area, because it's good for them too. People come to the park, also come to the businesses. The same thing with Death Valley. It's a little bit different because of the size and where it is, but the fact that the visitor center is open thanks to the Natural History Association.
Well, you see a lot of the first thing that people will mention is the economic benefit of keeping national parks open. But then when you start looking, when you look at what's happening at Joshua Tree, when you look at what's happening at Death Valley, what you see is, although we first step up and say that there's a huge economic benefit, which there is, it's also groups and organizations that are very closely tied to the park. It's residents and people from the area who want to see what they take as their park to keep it running, keep it up, and keep it from being any more damaged than it would normally be. The state of Arizona, of course, stepped in for the Grand Canyon.
Right.
They, of course, recognize what a huge economic benefit that is to northern Arizona. It would be nice if they would step in and help keep all of their national park properties open rather than just one.
But as far as, well, actually, this is California, and we're in Nevada, but basically, it's our park because we're the first, the biggest town closest to it, and a lot of the people from here going to the park come through here.
Well, and most people don't realize that Death Valley National Park is still the largest national park in Nevada.
That's true. You always give me on that one.
Just with the Nevada, what they call the Nevada Triangle, it's still the biggest national park in Nevada. And even the Nevada Department of Tourism realizes how significant Death Valley is to tourism in Nevada.
So, and then we have Devil's Hole too, Ash Meadows, that and Devil's Hole is part of Death Valley also.
Well, and we're currently working with Fish and Wildlife to try to figure out a way to get the visitor center at Ash Meadows reopened as well.
Oh, that's closed. I didn't
Yes,
even
it
think of
is.
that. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's very interesting to work with different branches of the Department of the Interior. You know, and it's great to be working with people who are really trying to find a way to say yes. They're just making sure that they get all their I's dotted and T's crossed.
So if you have any thoughts on saying something, write to your representatives, your senators, talk to anybody in politics and tell them we can't live like this. You have to do something about that because our natural resources are being trashed slowly but surely. And we only have so many volunteer groups to oversee them. Some people say the federal government is too strong and we need less federal government, but we need a balance there. And we need someone to look after our national parks. That's what this program is about. There's other things that are important, but we're talking about the national parks today.
Well, and I think we need a better understanding of what our public lands are. A lot of us will go out to our public lands and we think that they're ours. And to a certain extent they are. But they don't just belong to me or to John or to any of the visitors in Death Valley today or the visitors that'll be there tomorrow. They belong to all of us. And because they belong to all of us, we have a right to be able to enjoy them, but we have a responsibility to take care of them as well. And so when you go anywhere, whether it's a national park, a national forest, fish and wildlife refuge, anywhere, you should work really hard to try to make sure that you leave it in as good a state as you find it, if not better.
And I don't want to lose this, but I mentioned it, Dave, too. If you're going to a national park at the during the shutdown, take one of these little grabbers with you there, just in case, so you could pick up some of the things that are on the side of the road. I saw some of the pictures of people parking on the side of the road. They're in fire lanes, and they're blocking the proper roads for emergency vehicles coming through there and stuff. And there's no one to tell them you shouldn't do that, not as in a very negative way, but in a safe way. You know, in case of something happening, you have to be able to access the people that are hurt or something.
Even with the national parks being closed, there are still what they consider "quote-unquote" essential staff that are either on call or on duty, even though they're not getting paid. And that includes law enforcement. Mm-hmm. I know that we've done at least one search and rescue in the park since the closures occurred. And that person was found and rescued and taken care of. We're really lucky in Death Valley in the fact that we have nice wide shoulders on the roads. So if people do pull off the road at 20 Mule Team Canyon or Zabriskie Point or someplace like that, there's room. Not all parks are that lucky. When you drive through Yosemite or Sequoia, some of those roads are pretty narrow. And if you stop anywhere on those roads, there's not a shoulder to get off on. So you have to use common sense. What we're seeing now in Death Valley is a slow closure around the main Furnace Creek area. A press release was put out today. Texas Spring Campground is going to be closing. Keen Wonder Mine, Dante's View, these places that are a little further out and aren't getting as much attention as the ones closer to the visitor center. So as those get into a position where we can no longer take care of picking up all the trash or cleaning up the waste, then those areas will have to be closed.
You'll take care of something like Badwater till the very end?
Right now, I tell you, the really strong partnership that we have with the folks at Xanterra, which is the Furnace Creek, the Oasis at Furnace Creek, and the folks at the Death Valley Lodging Company at Stovepipe Wells, Zabriskie Point, Badwater, Golden Canyon, the Xanterra folks are helping to take care of those restrooms.
Pardon me, I forgot to mention that earlier. Xanterra is one of the major people that are, what do you want to call them?
They're not a park concessionaire. They're an in-holding within the park.
They are up and running, and
They are.
business is normal. And,
So is Stovepipe Wells,
right.
Which is a park concessionaire. But they have come in and they're taking care of the Stovepipe Wells campground and the restroom facilities there. And then we're keeping the visitor center and those restroom facilities open.
Yeah. So if you're headed out to Death Valley, go out there, enjoy it, but be a good camper. And what do we say? If you pack it in, pack it out again. Just remember what you do when you go camping into the wild areas throughout the country. Do the same thing for the national park too at the moment. But when, at other times, please use the trash containers there.
Yes. And if the gate's closed, it's closed for a very good reason. So
Yes.
leave it closed.
So anything else we should, how is Scotty's Castle doing?
Well, you know, this has put a bit of a hiccup in it. We were actually starting to move forward with some of the road construction, some of the rebuilding of the water and the electrical system.
Right.
All of that construction was scheduled to start this fall and this winter.
Yeah.
And right now, to my knowledge, that's all on hold.
Right.
The park really can't let those contractors come in and operate without some sort of supervision.
Oh, right.
So right now we're kind of on hold.
Oh my goodness. So also recently this past week, Selwyn Harris did an article on what we're talking about today. So if you well, you won't miss the TV show because you're watching me right now. But go online or get the edition of the Front Valley Times to read about what we've said here also, so you have more information on it. But remember, it's not only today, but always keep the park clean whenever you go there. It's always bring bags with you, so you would have a tendency to pack it out, what you pack in. As a last resort, look for the trash containers at the resort or at the national park. So anything else? All the roads are open?
Let's see. To my knowledge, everything's open except the Dante's View Road should be partially closed,
Okay.
and Salt Creek Road should be closed.
Okay.
And of course, Scotty's Castle is still closed.
Right. So in our last minute, pray that this doesn't last any longer because it'll take a lot longer to clean up the mess that people have left there. I know it's not you that's doing it, but it's building up. So I want to thank you once again for stopping by and giving us an update. And thank you for watching. And if you go in the park, go to Harbor Freight, get one of these for $3. All right, thank you for watching. Good night.
Community Viewpoint.